Yes, y'all! From the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Mothership in beautiful Carrollton, Texas, it is DCTF Live, an internet show. My name is Greg Tepper. I am the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, a magazine that allegedly exists, and TexasFootball.com, a website. Thank you for spending part of your day with us, whether you are watching us on TexasFootball.com or you are listening to us on the podcast, which you can subscribe to and rate on iTunes. I am sitting in one chair, sitting in one other chair in this room. There are multiple other chairs, but only one of them is occupied, besides the one I'm in, and that's occupied by MaxThompson.
Hey, what's going on?
So we're recording this today.
Yes,
So we're talking to you on Thursday. Today is Thursday, June 30th, 2016. Episode 161. 161 is the number of, let's see what we can come up with. Come on now. 161 is the number of strikeouts for Prince Fielder in his illustrious Texas Rangers career. Although if he strikes out tonight on Wednesday,
you could
be
wrong.
Let's go with another one. Okay. Number of how about number of at bats for Oscar Campbell?
Sure.
He's not playing for the Rangers.
One of the greatest baseball cards of all time. Oscar Campbell?
No, I don't.
You've never seen that with the afro?
Oh no, I haven't seen it. I need to Google that.
Champion.
So we are recording this today on Wednesday for your edification on Thursday because we are
working on a top secret project.
Working on a top secret project that I think people are really gonna like.
Yeah, unless I screw it up.
We're trying something very new.
It's possible I screw it up.
Very different, but we had to be out of the office for it, so we figured we would give you a little bit of a show beforehand.
One teasing moment.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a smaller town in Texas today.
Ooh.
Doing something football related.
Nice.
It's very surprising.
A little bit later in today's show, we will talk about we'll go back through our top 50 most important players in college football in Texas in 2016. We'll get into that. We left off at number 19. We are now down to number 10. My phone is ringing.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody who's calling me right now. I can't answer it right now. I'm doing a show. Or I could answer it on the air. And in a moment, we're going to run through one cool feature in our magazine, which is our annual writers poll.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about what that entails and what our writers had to say. So the 2016 summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football is now trickling out into stores.
Yes.
It has been it's been an ordeal because there was an issue at the printer, and we've fallen behind, and
yes.
I've been getting a lot of angry emails and a lot of comments and stuff like that.
Yeah, which you're handling.
People are not
sometimes better than others.
Sometimes better than others. But it is coming out. We got out. We finally got our big shipment. If that tells you anything, we just finally got. We normally get about 800 magazines here and we just got them today on Wednesday. So it's been that kind of day. Been that kind of ordeal. I don't like it any better than you do. But I'm always amazed by the conspiracy theories behind this.
Conspiracy theories are fun.
And we're at the center of one now, and I had heard it once, and I was like, oh, well, that's just one kind of...
One person. What's the big deal?
Now heard it like 2 or 3 times. The conspiracy theory goes that we had Art Briles and Baylor on the cover of the magazine, and then when he got fired, we had to delay the magazine so that we could get that we could get him off the cover and put somebody else on the cover.
Yeah,
which is a remarkable. There's always a little bit of nobody comes up with a conspiracy theory with no evidence, right?
Right.
And the evidence here is that, well, hold on a second, something big happened, and all of a sudden the most decorated magazine in the state is now late. Well, I wonder if maybe they put a little switcheroo. I can tell you unquestionably that we did not. We are. I am honestly. Well, yeah. What day was it? It was April.
Was it April or was it March?
I think it was the first week in
I
April.
can tell you the exact day it was because
you have our
here we go.
flight. I
Well,
can send
no.
you guys the flight
No.
information.
April 13th.
April 13th
Let me see here.
is when we went
Camera.
out to Lubbock.
This is my Instagram,
Ah, yes.
and you guys got mad at me
I did
because I
thought you were gonna give it
geotagged myself at Texas Tech University
Mm-hmm.
on April 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, in the pavement outside their athletic offices, they have the old Southwest Conference logo, which
And all the Southwest
was a-
Conference logos.
logos, the
which
old
was
ones, yes,
awesome.
which is a direct ploy straight at my heart.
Yeah,
But here it is. I tweeted out, "Tech gets it."
that's
Right.
That's proof.
I was in Lubbock on April 13th for this photo shoot. Yeah, I mean that's about the best I can do.
But what's great about conspiracy theories is that that's not going to change anyone's mind.
Oh no.
No, that is unquestionable.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Evidence
Yeah.
that we were in Lubbock shooting this cover shoot on April 13th. But if you think that we had Baylor on the cover and then we switched it, I'm honestly, the thing about that conspiracy theory is that I'm a little honored by that, because that would seem to assume that we're that nimble,
Yes.
that we can get Bruce Feldman, who's one of the most famous sports writers in the world. We can
Yeah.
get Bruce Feldman to completely rewrite something in like a week
Right.
for us.
Well, that's another thing, right? You probably we requested the Kingsbury article from Feldman in March sometime, probably.
I can tell you. Hold on, while we're pulling up stuff.
You can tell that this is a tape show, though, because we have the most ridiculous content plans for this.
I
show.
emailed Bruce on Tuesday, March 8th.
Was it really that long back?
Tuesday, March 8th is when I emailed Bruce.
Okay.
And he agreed. Well, he said I'd definitely be interested, but
Sure.
And then we kind of talked through the cover thing. But that's what's so funny is that this is not going to change anyone's mind.
No.
Because there's this notion. I mentioned this off the air. There's this notion. There are some people in the world. Like if somebody lies to you, okay, we've all been lied to. It happens.
Sure.
It sucks. Yeah. We've all been lied to. And if you find out that somebody lied to you, most people's reaction would be, God, that sucks. Why?
Yeah. Why'd you lie?
Why would they lie to me? Why would they tell me that lie? There is another subset of people who, when somebody lies to them, go, everything is a lie. You know? Like, for example, and this is going to this is going to alienate a lot of people. So here we go.
You immediately made me think of It's Just Banter right now. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
From the live show?
No.
Oh, where they talked about the Elon Musk quotes about him saying that
Oh, yeah.
It's a guarantee or whatever.
That he thinks it's a 1 in a billion shot that we're actually living in the
in
actual
a
world.
or like reality or something like that.
Elon Musk is simultaneously brilliant and a little bit crazy.
It's awesome.
Which is awesome. Anyway, here's a conspiracy theory that I think that I subscribe to, that I don't, but that I think I'm in the minority.
Okay.
I think Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Oh man.
I do. I buy the official story behind the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of evidence to support that this was one guy who acted alone, who was very disaffected, and who wanted to make a statement, and he did it. Now, but the thing is that everybody then takes one thing that they hear and then they connect it to another thing. For example, Jack Ruby, who came and shot Lee Harvey Oswald before they could interrogate him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Conspiracy theories fascinate me, and I just think that in the end, I don't think that there are enough smart people in the world to pull over like a massive conspiracy. Like we could, in theory, like we're a small enough operation that if we wanted to cover up, if we really did have Baylor on the cover and we wanted to cover it up, like we could. But I don't even know how that would start. Like how we would do that.
I mean, like if you just want to go down to brass tacks, right? Like just let's go back to March 1. My proposal is we put Baylor on the cover. I think everyone would have gone, well, we should have done that last year if we were going to do it. Like that whole group's gone now.
Yeah.
This is before everything blew up.
Yeah,
their peak chance was last year.
Yeah,
right. There's too many question marks going into this.
Beyond that, here's the other thing. We had just had Baylor on the cover 2 years ago.
That'd be pretty quick.
We're gonna have him on the cover twice in 3 years.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I don't. It's odd. I don't know. It popped up again, and it just fascinates me. And again, we're not even nimble enough to get out a magazine on time.
Mm-hmm.
How could we be nimble enough? How can we be nimble enough to change that? Which is funny because we're about to get into something. We are DCTF Live. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. And we have a website. Okay. So, speaking of which, we're going to talk about the writers' poll. Okay. And for those who don't know, the writers' poll is we call some of our friends from around the nation,
and state.
Around the state, and luminaries.
Yes.
And say, hey, we want to get your opinion on college football in 2016 in the Lone Star State.
Yeah.
We also asked some bigger questions, but generally speaking. And so we had, let's see, Mike Craven, our friend, Al Pickett, the great Al Pickett out there in Abilene, Zach Bardette from FootballScoop.com, Joe Vazzelli from the San Marcos Daily Record, Ty Duffy, your buddy from the Big Lead, Chuck Carlton from the Dallas Morning News, Jarrett Johnson from Raider Power, my buddy Bill Connolly at SB Nation, Jake Trotter and Max Olson from ESPN, and then you and I.
Yes.
And so those are the people who kind of, and we asked them a number of questions. And what's funny is that if you want to completely counterattack my trying to brush off the conspiracy theory that we weren't that we had Baylor on the cover, is that we had a number of people. We asked people who they think who's gonna win the Big 12 and who's gonna win the Heisman.
Yeah.
And we had 3 people who I won't name.
Yeah.
We did have 3 people who picked Baylor to win the Big 12. Right. We also had 1 person who picked Seth Russell to win the Heisman.
Yes.
And so when the Art Briles thing came down, I emailed those 3 people and I go, hey, would you like a mulligan?
Yeah.
And all of them took the mulligan.
Yeah.
So overall, the questions we asked, we started with if you had to buy stock in one FBS coach in Texas, who would you choose? Yeah. I was really pleased with the diversity of the answers.
A lot of different answers here.
But in the end, the overwhelming pick, there were 2 overwhelming picks. One was Gary Patterson.
Yeah.
And I think Gary Patterson, somebody's calling me. Sorry, sir, I can't answer. Gary Patterson, I think, is the safe pick. Gary Patterson is the blue chip stock, right? Yeah. Gary Patterson is investing in Apple. You know, it is boring, but it is going to give you a good, easy, solid return every year. You know what you're getting. There's little risk there in buying stock in him. The other one we got a lot of was Tom Herman.
He's the sexy pick
that's the getting in on the ground floor guy.
Yeah, buy now because, boy, those returns.
Oh, I think we also had a couple people pick Seth Luttrell at North Texas, which is
I thought it was interesting.
That's what I'm interested in. That's like there's this small company in like Boston you've never heard of, but they're about to blow up, and that's kind of what would be going there.
We also had a few people pick Art Briles, who later were like,
maybe not.
Take that off.
Which new hire will have the biggest impact on their on the program in the next 3 years? Seth Luttrell, Frank Wilson, and Everett Withers. And we phrased that specifically because it's very hard to gauge the long term.
Right.
Because, Frank Wilson may be at UTSA for 10 years and end up taking them to a long term run, but we gotta truncate it and say in the next 3 years who's going to be the best. A lot of Seth Luttrell.
Yeah, Luttrell ran away with this.
Ran away with it, but the other one that came up a lot was I'm sorry,
Everett.
Everett Withers.
Yeah.
Everett Withers. They think that because he has a program that is a little more intact and has a little bit more
and a proven track record.
And a proven track record. That's easy. We did have 1 vote for Frank Wilson, and I think that comes down to the recruiting class.
Yeah.
Let's see. Which will happen first? Texas wins the Big 12 or Texas A&M wins the SEC? Texas was the big winner here.
Right.
But as you'll read in the magazine, that is saying more about the Big 12 than it is about Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That is saying the Big 12 is more winnable. And A&M, if A&M's going to win the SEC, think about what they'd have to do. They'd first of all have to win the West.
Right.
Okay? They'd have to win the SEC West, which means you have to beat Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi schools, and LSU.
Best case
and
scenario,
Arkansas, by
you
the
can
way.
lose one game.
Exactly. That's very tough. And then let's say they do that. They got to go win the SEC title game against
Georgia,
or
exactly. Florida,
Tennessee, maybe. So that is so Texas was the big winner there, just because the conference is a little bit easier to navigate. Which story will emerge that nobody's talking about? There were a couple interesting ones here.
Tons.
Joe Vazzelli mentioned Greg Ward Jr. as a Heisman candidate, which I love.
Yeah.
Jarrett Johnson, in a bit of a prescient move, said Waco media culture. Boy, howdy. Bill Connolly thinks of things in a very interesting way. I'm just going to read it directly from here. Houston had turnovers luck and a couple of unlikely wins last year. What happens if the Cougars are still awesome but suffer some bad breaks and go 9-3? Is Tom Herman still the heir apparent at approximately every big-time school?
It's a good question.
I've mentioned that before, that I have some questions about Houston only because they had big-time turnover luck last year, and they've got to replace their most dominant unit, which is the secondary.
Yeah.
And Bill, it's comforting when smart people say what you're thinking, right?
Yes.
And that's a guy of a smart guy. If you were building your team, a team around any current Texas college player, who would it be? Got a lot of Pat Mahomes, got a lot of Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
One guy, who is it? It's Ty Duffy said Jarrett Stidham. Not a bad pick.
Not a bad pick.
Young quarterback. Not a bad move. Which freshman will have the biggest impact on a Texas program?
Runaway winner here.
There was a runaway winner here, and that is it was Shane Buechele at Texas.
Right.
But we did have a couple people who said Devin Duvernay.
Yeah.
But that was assuming that he was going to be at Baylor.
Yeah.
That was one thing we did not catch. I will tell you there is one small mistake there.
Yeah.
If you had to pay to
but when the magazine went to press,
yes,
he was still at Baylor.
Absolutely. If you had
in theory, I guess he never was because that letter never went in, but none of us knew.
If you had to pay to attend one Texas college game in 2016, who would you choose? Interesting mix here. A lot of Texas and Baylor. I said Houston and Oklahoma because I think there's a college football playoff berth on the line there. Texas Tech and TCU. A&M and UCLA got a vote from Ty Duffy. Baylor and Tech. A lot of different choices there. And then which FBS program is most likely to have a new coach in 2017? And then we managed to sneak in an editor's note that says this poll was conducted prior to Art Briles' termination of Baylor. So assuming people didn't know that Baylor was going to have a new coach. But a lot of Tom Herman's going to be Houston's. A lot of people think Tom Herman's leaving Houston.
Like it felt like it was a moving target here, right? Because a lot of people were searching for the first guy to get fired. When I think the real answer is it's more likely, right, that Herman has another great year and people come for him.
Yes.
So I think our numbers were split 50-50 between people who are like, yeah, Herman's great and there will be people coming for him, and the other people going, oh, well, this guy's going to get fired.
Correct.
Which is a little trickier.
We also asked a lot about who's going to win the Big 12. Oklahoma was the overwhelming winner. The SEC is mostly Alabama with a couple LSUs and Ole Misses kicked in.
Yep.
Who's going to win the American? A lot of Houston, a little bit. One person said South Florida. One person said Tulsa, which is a big projection pick.
Yeah, that is. Whew.
Who will win CUSA? A lot of Western Kentucky. Who will win the Sun Belt? A lot of Appalachian State. And then who's going to win the national championship? A lot of Alabama. It's pretty evenly split between Alabama and Clemson. Those teams be too big. Who will win the Heisman Trophy? Deshaun Watson starts as the heavy favorite, but there's a lot of Leonard Fournette in there as well. Christian McCaffrey as well. What will be the Cowboys' record, and will they make the playoffs? The low end is 7-9. The high end is 10-6. And then it's mostly yes, a few no's as far as the playoffs. What will be the Texans' record? Will they make the playoffs? Mostly no's and a lot of 6-10s, 7-9s in there. And then pick your Super Bowl matchup and winner. Unfortunately, we did not get the Brent Zwerneman from our friend from the Houston Chronicle and San Antonio Express News. And here's a bit that he does every year. Yep. Every year he picks Cowboys and Texans in the Super Bowl. Every single year. Yeah. So I had to carry on that tradition, and I picked the Texans over the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I don't really know. It's probably going to be like Panthers and Steelers or something like that. We are DCTF Live. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com, talking football in the Lone Star State. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. All righty, Maximus. One other thing we want to get to today. We have our top 50 most important college football players in Texas. Mm-hmm. This is where I get to give this speech again. This is not a list of the best 50 players in the state. This is a list of the 50 most important, meaning how they play will affect what football in Texas looks like in 2016. The example I always come back to is that we had number 32, Christian Kirk, at the Texas A&M wide receiver. Christian Kirk is not the 32nd best player in the state. He is at worst, the 8th best player in the state. Okay? He's awesome. Yep. But because of his situation and because they have such a cupboard full of weapons, Christian Kirk doesn't have to have an amazing year for A&M to be good on offense. Because Ricky Seals-Jones could be great, or Speedy Noyle could be great, or any of these other weapons could be great. But so that's why Christian Kirk is only the 32nd most important player, if that makes sense. Okay.
Whatever, you jerk, you hate my team.
We left off at number 19, which was Zach Wright, the Rice wide receiver. Number 18, North Texas quarterback Alec Morris. I think there was a lot of people around the state, understandably so, who checked out on North Texas football last year. Mm-hmm. They were just like, well, they're terrible, because they were. That's not necessarily an opinion. They were really bad. But you may have missed that they have a quarterback transfer in who looks like he's going to be the guy. It's Alec Morris, the former Allen quarterback, who was a backup at Alabama. This is a guy who was recruited by Alabama because he's a really good quarterback. And now you could make the argument that North Texas now has an SEC caliber quarterback for Seth Littrell to operate with. Alec Morris, and when you look at the way the North Texas offense...
even the Vanderbilt kind.
Right. Or the Missouri kind. If you look at the way how badly the North Texas offense struggled, it was by the end of the year, it was basically Jeffrey Wilson and Prey. You know what I mean? Yeah. But now, if they can add, especially considering what we think Seth Littrell's offense is going to look like, if they can add this passing threat in Alec Morris, all of a sudden North Texas becomes a lot more viable as a contender in Conference USA. That's number 18, Alec Morris. Number 17, another quarterback, Texas A&M quarterback Trevor Knight, another transfer. Another Texas high school kid who went out of state and then transferred back into state.
Katy Perry's teenage dream.
Trevor Knight. I have very mixed opinions on Trevor Knight because I thought Trevor Knight was incredible at San Antonio Reagan. I thought he was amazing.
Yeah.
And then he goes up to Oklahoma. And he has that incredible, was it Alamo Bowl, Cotton Bowl?
No, Sugar Bowl.
Sugar Bowl.
He smoked them in the Sugar Bowl.
Win over Alabama.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, oh my gosh, Trevor Knight's the next big thing. Trevor Knight is horrifying last year.
Yeah.
He was not good.
Not good.
Not good. He ends up getting benched in favor of Baker Mayfield, who was great.
Yeah.
Now, give him a lot of credit, but it also shows you that there were weapons around him that you can't necessarily blame the pieces around him.
It's important to remember that Baker Mayfield, which it ended up being proven that he was great, obviously.
Sure.
But he won that job in spring. He'd never even played for Oklahoma, and he blew Knight away in spring before the season even started.
So Trevor Knight then transfers to A&M, who desperately needed a quarterback after the major signal caller exodus at the end of last year. So in steps Trevor Knight to take over an offense that you would say he is so perfectly fit to run.
Yeah. If you hadn't seen that bad stuff.
Right. Yeah. Basically, if you go and you say, hey, the quarterback who beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl is going to Texas A&M, you would go, holy crap, Texas A&M's offense is going to be incredible.
Right.
But there's all this other evidence that suggests, okay, maybe we need to pump the brakes on it. If Trevor Knight is Sugar Bowl Trevor Knight, A&M goes from kind of middling in the SEC to legit contender.
Right.
And if he's not, then that offense all of a sudden kind of slows to a slog.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Number 16, Texas running back Chris Warren. Chris Warren ended up being, I think, the most valuable player on that offense last year.
Yeah, one of the last 3 games,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's not saying a whole lot, but he ended up being the most valuable. And if you believe that Texas is still going to have trouble at the quarterback spot, and there's reason to believe that they will,
Right.
if you believe that, then they're going to have to rely a lot more on the running game. And if they're going to rely a lot more on the running game, that's going to mean a heavy, heavy, heavy dose of Chris Warren. How Chris Warren performs in 2016 is going to have a lot to say about how good the 2016 Longhorns are. Number 15, Baylor quarterback Seth Russell. I mean, even more so now. In fact, you can make the argument that he's only moved up this list.
Right.
That in a leadership vacuum in Waco, right, with the quarterback, yes, the quarterback is the captain of the offense. But let's not mince words here. Art Briles was the captain of the Baylor offense.
Right.
He is now gone.
Yeah.
And so Seth Russell is now left to hold together an offense not only on the field, which is going to have some question marks, because we had big question marks about the offensive line. We had big question marks about a couple of other places, the defense. But beyond that, he's now going to have to hold them together between the ears. I think if we were doing this list again, Seth Russell would have been bumped into the top 10.
Yeah.
As it stands now, we're not going to do any post hoc, changing. But I would say that number 15, Seth Russell, he is one of the most important players in Texas in 2016.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Briles is still there, right? Do you think it's more or less likely that Russell gets the job over Stidham versus now? I think more.
I think
right.
more.
I think if he's still there, you know what the offense is going to be. You already know what he can do in it. But is the offense going to look the same now?
I don't know.
And is Stidham a better fit? Is
Who
it?
knows? Who knows?
Is it one of those situations? Because a lot of those coaches will tell you, if it's even, I'm going younger. Right.
But the other thing about this, the Baylor quarterback situation, is that I think Art Briles, if he were still at Baylor, would have had a quicker hook.
Probably.
In the sense that because he's got...
a little more ruthless.
He's been a little more ruthless because he knows he's there to win.
Yeah.
Jim Grobe, God bless him, is there to steer the ship.
Yeah.
And so if Seth Russell comes out and he, for whatever reason, he is coming off neck surgery, which just makes me so tense. But he's coming off neck surgery. If Art Briles were still there and Seth Russell went out there and he just looked sloppy and he was turning the ball over and he just looked rusty, I think he would be like, Stidham, get in there.
Yeah.
I think now Jim Grobe, knowing just based on what kind of coach he is, I think he's going to go and stick with Russell no matter what.
Okay.
That would be my position. Okay. Number 14.
Small schools.
My boy. Lamar running back Cade Harrington.
You're a big fan.
Mike Craven wrote in the article, which he's been doing a great job about this. Mike Craven wrote in the article that he is the best player you've never heard of in Texas.
That's probably true.
And that's probably...
Unless you're Greg Tepper.
It's probably not fair to like Lamar fans, but it's also very true that if Cade Harrington were putting up these kinds of numbers at like TCU...
Right.
He would be all over the place.
Yeah.
Because he has been ridiculous for them.
Yeah.
And he is the engine that makes that Lamar offense go.
Yeah.
Cade Harrington, the 14th most important player in Texas in 2016. Number 13, Prairie View A&M quarterback Trey Green. I think he might be the best player in the SWAC.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's a fair argument. Yeah.
And if Prairie View, which I think has finally gotten its feet underneath them with their coach.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If Prairie View is going to win the SWAC, basically it's going to come down to Trey Green. If Trey Green plays up to his quote-unquote paper, if Trey Green is as good as we think he could be in 2016,
if another year in this system means even bigger numbers,
then he's going to be one of the most unstoppable players in the state. Period. End of sentence.
Yep.
Number 12, Rice linebacker Alex Lyons. Rice's defense last year was a
mess.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah.
It was repug.
The worst, right? Statistically?
It was
in
statistically
FBS?
the worst. Okay? And a big reason why was the passing offense. Or passing defense. if you're going, you need leadership. And to me, almost the only bright spot on this Rice defense last year was Lyons, who emerged as, I think, the real leader of that unit. Is he able to do that again and kind of rise the tide for everything?
Yeah.
If he's able to do that, then I think that Rice has a chance for a really big bounce-back year. But a lot's going to come down to the leadership and the ability of Alex Lyons in the middle.
Yeah.
Number 11, SMU's Matt Davis.
Yeah.
Does it seem to you that Matt Davis has been playing college football for 500 years now?
It does seem that way. The most interesting thing about Matt Davis at this point is how many people aren't convinced. What else do you need?
What? Yeah. Okay. If you're not convinced that Matt Davis can ball at this point, you're never going to be convinced. Okay? That dude's awesome.
There's a fair amount of people, including Mike Craven, who seem to think there's a chance he could get beat in camp. And if he does, I'll sit here and go, okay, Daryl Colbert is better, or maybe
Ben Hicks.
right? But I guess I'd just be so surprised. I feel like he did everything he was asked, and you'd expect him to get better this year.
What do you want? I mean, this guy has been great for SMU, and he's also the. Okay, let me ask you. As far as if you look around the 10 FBS programs in the state, or 12 rather, and we can kind of kick out North Texas just because we don't really know what they're going to look like with a new coach,
right,
and maybe to a certain extent the other two with UTSA and Texas State. So those other 9 with schemes that look like they're going to stay the same.
Right.
Which offenses are most reliant on their quarterback play?
Oh man,
I think it's probably a tie, right? Between SMU and Tech. That's where I go with it.
Yeah, because I would say, I don't know, that's true. Herman and Morris do some similar things. They do really believe in the run game as a huge component of the way they attack offenses. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I think that if you think SMU's due for a bounce-back year and due for a big year to maybe make a bowl, I think what you're saying is Matt Davis is going to have a breakout year.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So then that's number 11, and then number 10, TCU quarterback Kenny Trill Hill.
You went and did it.
Kenny. Nobody. I don't want to say nobody. I have never had a question about Kenny Hill's ability. Not once.
Right.
When he was at Southlake, when he was at A&M, obviously things went awry at A&M, but this is a kid who can ball out of control.
Yeah.
How quickly does he pick up the new offense? How quickly does he develop a rapport with the Horned Frogs? Now remember, he's been on campus for a whole year.
Yeah.
Because he transferred after last season, or after the year before, 2014 season.
2014.
He transferred after the 2014 season. So he's been on campus learning under a guy who's his age, in Trevon Boykin.
Right.
I look at Kenny Hill, and we talked about this, about how TCU is such a different team this year because last year we had big-time question marks about their defense.
Right.
Offense, everything's coming back, looked
right.
great. Now you switch it. And if you think Trevon Boykin was exceptionally important to TCU last year, and I do,
right,
then if you think the TCU offense is not going to skip a beat, you're saying that that's because Kenny Hill can step in. I think that he's as huge. I think to have him in the top 10 is apropos. That's just me.
I think so. And as I keep chirping around this office, as I keep parroting, I'm talking myself into TCU as a Big 12 champion.
Yeah.
And it's all relying on him just doing a good job.
Just coming in and doing his thing. So that's our list. We're going to wrap it up in the next couple of weeks. The 50 most important college football players in Texas in 2016. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. We will be back tomorrow for Off Topic Friday. If you have a question for us, let us know. Hashtag DCTF Live. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Vince Young, please get your Player of the Year trophy. We will see you tomorrow on DCTF Live.